Chapter 7. Airplanes. The English were unpleasant in their own very English way. It was as if they lived at the top of the world, and naturally looked down on everyone else. Looked down in the sense that everyone else was clearly beneath them, so what else could they do? No spite or guilt, just, why doesn't everyone else try harder? There was a hint of warmth to their contempt that I found especially deplorable. How could such scumbags sit pretending to be gentlemen, acting as if they made the world spin while sipping tea and discussing the state of the world? If this was the English, the Spaniards back on the Canary Islands were far better. They were cocky and violent, but never tried to pretend they were in the right. They never explained to you how their tyranny was based on logical superiority, and besides, if they left the trash to themselves, they'd never amount to anything, yes? I never realised that true arrogance presented itself as elegance. True class, to my mind, was evident without resorting to pretense. In that sense, I found no true gentlemen or ladies in the Joestar family's ancestral home, Wastewood. Every single one of them treated our apparent differences as a means by which they could once again justify their own superiority. The Joestar family's recent contributions to Wastewood history had been the slaughter of the head of the family and a great number of policemen by an adopted son, followed by a fire that burned the man into the ground, and in the surviving heir had married, only to die in a shipwreck on his honeymoon. Even once my mother returned, all we got was, "Eh? The Joestar girl survived. My, you had a child and lived on your own in the Canary Islands. How sturdy of you. So you've come home, although you never really lived here, did you? Well, that hospital your father ran was handed over to new management quite some time ago, so you really have no family here at all. It's been a burnt heap of rubble for 20 years. I never imagined seeing the Joestar Manor rebuilt. Oh, you know the president of the Speedwagon Company. He's helping you rebuild, is he? He's a bachelor and you have 2 children. It must be tough. Oh, really? That girl isn't yours? Not even of noble birth. I see. Well, you're still Pendleton's daughter and a fine woman, although it's been much too long since your wedding to really re-enter society. And your son doesn't seem to fit at the club. But enough about practical matters. Tell us more about life in the island. You must have had so many adventures. My mother just smiled and nodded, and said it had all been quite a bizarre adventure, and since staying at home led to nothing but this sort of neighbourly assault, she quickly began commuting to London. In the city was the hospital my mother's father had founded, now even larger. Graham Pendleton had retired, and the hospital was now run by someone else, but a controlling interest in the stock was owned by mother and my grandfather, and she'd stayed in contact with him the entire time we were on the Canary Islands. My mother started her own company not far from the hospital, effectively transferring the headquarters of the Starmark Trading's company she'd founded from the Canary Islands to London. The office back on the islands remained, and additional ships from England increased the volume they could trade. England and Spain being presently engaged in a struggle for control of the seas, this arrangement allowed her to play both sides, purchasing goods in Spain to sell in England, leading to a steady increase in profits. Both mother and Penelope, who was working with her, seemed full of life and fun, while I had transferred to my father's old school, Hugh Hudson High, and was being bullied again. Judging by the amount of people who called me George with a J, the fact that I was a fallen aristocrat amused my classmates endlessly, but at the same time the economic success my mother had was impossible not to notice locally, and made them all frantically jealous. On top of that, it was very easy to make fun of anyone with a single-mother household, and well, quite a number of things were said to me. I never really minded what they said about me. When they couldn't get a reaction out of me, they got mad, and one idiot fumbled his way into insulting my mother, which I couldn't abide. On the Canary Islands, I'd been too afraid to ever get in a fist fight. Suddenly I found myself taking 3 or 4 at a time, swinging wildly. I lost, of course. Fights always won by whoever has more people on their side. This was high school. We were all grown up, and our punches and kicks hurt quite a lot. But I was ecstatic. I could finally take a swing at somebody. At the same time I felt hollow. However slimy my opponents were, they were just high school boys. Normal humans, not evil vampires or zombies. My fights were sleepy scraps in a world of peace. It all seemed so stupid I began refusing to engage with them no matter what they said. Mother told me to ignore them and worried about my injuries, and Penelope was furious and started slurp summoning locked room clowns, so anyone who fought me was in grave danger, but mostly I just got bored by it all, fed up, by melancholy, violent, endlessly peaceful days. I remember the time I'd spent with Sukumajuku. All that time spent hunting serial killers, solving locked room murders, getting trapped in mansions on deserted islands. I missed the adrenaline rush, of course, but what I really wanted was my friendship with him. The ability to talk about anything, to say what I liked, real laughs, real anger. I was 16 now, and the thought was embarrassing. But I wanted a friend. It didn't seem likely I'd ever make one. I thought I couldn't make friends on the Canary Islands because everyone was Spanish, but I couldn't make friends with the English either. Because of this I started spending more and more time on my own, and since it was the country, the only place in Westwood where I wouldn't run into someone I knew was the sea. Since there were steep cliffs along the coast, the only person who ever wandered around there was me, and I went almost every day. And that was where I met the Motorize siblings. At first I thought they were getting in the way of my gloomy cliff stalking. I was staring at the sea and remembering how much I didn't want to go back to the Canary Islands, when I saw them carrying something with a pair of huge rings, like a giant bird, up to the cliff's edge. Were they going to push it over and make it fly? Seemed like a waste to make something like that and then throw it into the sea. Then, to my surprise, the girl wiggled in underneath it, inside of it. What is she? Is she trying to fly that thing? Really? The wind on these cliffs weren't strong enough to lift more than a leaf. There was no way it would work. I was so shocked I started laughing. Before I could call out to her to stop, the boy shoved the big construct towards the edge of the cliff, with the girl still inside. He didn't even hesitate. Huh? Huh! I ran towards him yelling, but too late. The tail of the bird the girl was riding had tipped up, and it slipped over the edge of the cliff. She was falling. Shit! These cliffs are at least 30 metres tall. The water is deep, but from that height, she'd be lucky to survive the impact. I had to save her. Hoping to pull her out of the ocean, I ran to the cliff edge nearest to me. I could see the nose of the bird on the surface below. I couldn't see the girl anywhere in the pounding surf. I ran quickly along the cliff edge until I was right above the sunken bird, shouted, "I'll be back for you!" at her killer, who seemed startled by my sudden approach, and with that, I flung myself off the cliff. And as I did, the bird shot past me with the girl still inside. Both the girl and I said, "Huh?" at the same time. I turned in the air, staring after the girl and the bird, and thought, shit, I did it again. I was always throwing myself headlong into danger without a second's thought. Sukumajuku used to lecture me about it all the time, but judging by the speed the cliffs were moving away from me, I was about to hit the water, and should probably brace myself. 30 metres. Doable? I thought it was. I stretched my arms up, and did my best to hit the water straight on. I took a quick breath, but before I hit, the boy from the cliff caught up with me, wrapped his arms around my body, and suddenly we were speeding along in a totally different direction, along the surface of the ocean. My entire body was still braced for impact, and I had trouble adjusting to this turn of events. What the hell were you thinking? He said. If you looked up for 1 second, you'd have seen the glider. Tell me you aren't hurt. I still couldn't bring myself to speak, so I just shook my head. There were these things on his shoulders dripping with some dark red goo, and they were folding up and stretching out, and were covered in long flat hair, and then they turned and we left the sea and flew up into the air. He had wings, and they were covered in blood. Was he not human? Yeah, cat, I heard someone shout. Over the bird boy's shoulders I could see the girl I tried to save in her bird-shaped machine, flying alongside us. Man, they gave me a heart attack, she said, laughing hysterically. I stared at her in horror. We'd better land, the bird boy said. Right, I'll look around and come if I'm done then. You okay, Stephen? Ugh. Ah, and thank you, she said, catching my eye. What for? You were right about me, right? You went running straight off that cliff. Dash and bound. I saw the whole thing. See you on the cliff, she said, threw me a kiss, and turned the wings of her machine away from us. I'd assumed Bird Boy was her boyfriend, so this set my heart racing for 2 reasons. But the real reason my heart was racing was seeing that girl flying around in her bird machine, and how it had no obvious form of propulsion. But there it was, flying up, down, left, right, never falling totally free. Even after the bird boy had deposited me safely on the top of the cliff, I stood riveted, watching her fly, obsessed with this new power. I'm jealous. I want one. Everyone will be riding them soon enough. Eh? Really? How? Does seem like something anyone could do. You can if you practice a bit, just like driving a car. Maybe we won't be able to fly like her, but it won't be long before they make ones anyone can handle. Like a car? Then she isn't using some sort of special power to make that fly? What do you mean? I mean like those wings of yours. No, that's just science, no special powers. But that thing looks too heavy to fly. It was hardly a leaf. It is if you don't handle it right. You've never seen an airplane before? Airplane? Was that thing an airplane? If air flows under the wings, it pushes them up. Normally they have an engine making a propeller spin and build speed, but we don't have the money or the engineering skills. So the best we can do is make a one-man glider out of wood and cloth. I got even more excited. If normal people can make something like that, there is every chance I could fly one. If these things were going to be as common as cars, then I would absolutely be flying one day, someday. Amazing! I would be able to fly. I'd been sure I'd just met 2 more people with mysterious powers, but I guess that wasn't true for the girl. I looked over at the bird boy, and he folded his wings up and was sitting down. The bleeding had stopped, but the flesh on the wings looked really soft, and what I could see of his back through the holes in his shirt made it clear there was lots of bruising around the base of the wings, and some yellow bubbles oozing out. Guess this was why the girl had been concerned. He was clearly not okay. Sorry, this was all my mistake. Forget about it. Looks painful. Very painful. Yeah, but I'm used to it, and it'll be fine in a bit. And you're more surprised by the plane than my wings. Huh? Just so happens I'm used to strange things. Yeah? So how'd you end up like this? Well, wait, I said, remembering how Penelope's got hers. If it hurts to talk about, forget I asked. Can't say there wasn't pain involved, but that makes it sound like a much more interesting story than it is. I've never told anyone the story. Hardly anyone else has ever seen my rings. He fell silent, so I didn't pry further. I looked back at the glider. Just watching it brought me joy, and given what Stephen had said about the future, I found myself looking forward to what was to come for the first time in my life. I suddenly felt like all sorts of extraordinary things were going to happen. I'm definitely flying one of those. Absolutely. Positively. I heard Stephen laughing behind me. Well, given how quick you jumped off that cliff, those kind of guts is just what you need to be a pilot. Guts? Nobody else had ever accused me of having those before. Stephen's sister Kenton came sliding in for a gentle landing on top of the cliffs. We looked the glider over, and except for a few grass stains, it was completely unharmed. While I was busy being surprised and impressed, they swiftly broke the glider down and loaded it into the back of their wagon. They gave me a lift, and I ended up back at their house. At this point it finally occurred to me to introduce myself, and they were both taken aback. You're the Joestar boy? Our grandfather was friends with your grandfather. Your grandfather's name was George too, right? Kenton asked. I nodded, but my name's spelled George, with a J. Oh, but spelled that way, wouldn't you pronounce it Jorge? Don't people call you that? They do, both on the Canary Island and here in England. So, we've been getting along rather well. Were they going to start mocking me now? Do you know a girl named Darlington? Nope. You don't? She's in a class. I don't know anybody's name at school. I guess you did say you transferred. I hadn't said that yet. Something Darlington? Huh? What's her first name? Oh, Darlington's her first name. My kid's sister. I know it sounds like a last name. It is a last name too. Same goes for my name. Dad named us both after old friends of his. Since he can't very well give girls boys' names, he gave us their last names. Awful, isn't it? So, Darlington Motorize? Yes, our little princess. I'm sure you've noticed her. She's the cutest girl in your class. The one with the curly hair. I don't remember a girl like that. No wonder she's so mad about it. Thank you so much, Jorge Joestar. Our little princess is getting a bit too vain. You've been good medicine. So this girl was waiting for us at the Motorize residence? No matter where you went, someone was there, and they were connected to someone else. It was just like La Palma. I sighed. Give her a chance, Stephen said. He was sitting on the right side of the wagon, holding the reins. I agree she's a bit vain, but she's not a bad kid, and she's more than just a pretty face. I remained unenthused. The Motorize estate was still properly aristocratic, with a huge garden, large mansion and a butler. We rolled the wagon straight into the shed. While we were unloading the glider, the butler and Darlington came in. "I've brought you both some tea," she said. "Oh, aren't you in my class?" I took a good look at her, but couldn't say for sure if I'd ever seen her in class. "What?" she said, somehow looking both anxious and victorious at the same time. "Sorry, I'm afraid I don't remember you. I'm Jorge Joestar," I said, holding out my hand. Darlington sulked for a second, but then took my hand. "Darlington Motorize," she said. "This is our butler, Faraday. Give George some tea, too. Oh, Stephen, your wings. Did Kenton have another accident?" No, that's my fault," I said. Darlington glared at me. "What did you do? Every time Stephen opens his wings, it takes him 3 weeks to heal, you know. He can't go to school that whole time, so you owe him." I hadn't expected it to take that much time. I'd imagined it was a momentary thing, like Penelope's wound. I looked at Stephen, and he said, "Knock it off, Da. George tried to save Ken. He could well have hurt himself worse than me trying. I'm used to it by now. He's fine. Not like we need to call a doctor for it. There's nothing anybody can do to help." "But it takes 3 weeks. What about school?" I asked. Stephen laughed. "I don't exactly take school seriously to begin with. I can learn what I need on my own, and it means more time I can spend on gliders." "Besides that," Kenton said, "you bought tea out there because you want to know Jorge Joestar, making Faraday join in your weird little pantomime." "What nonsense." "But you never once bought us tea before, ever." "Ha ha. Hey, then you pretend I didn't know his name. Aren't you in my class?" "Ha ha 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 ha." "Stop it. It's so nonsense, I swear," Darlington shrieked. Then she left in a huff, angrily stamping her way through the mud. Kenton watched her go, laughing hysterically. "Ken, knock it off. I'm starting to feel sorry for her," Stephen said. "You know she's just going to take it out on Faraday and Dad." "But she's so cute." "It's always like this," he sighed. I'd have stayed as far away from any of this as possible, but they were his sisters, and Stephen seemed hopelessly nice. Faraday served us all tea, and we drank it. It was delicious. I wandered around their work shed, teacup in hand. There were plans all over the walls, shelves filled with models, and a pile of glider parts in the back. It was clear he tried out a number of different body types, and the sheer variety displayed in the plans, models, and parts lit fire to my imagination. "George," Stephen said, "want to help make planes after school? And on holidays if you're really interested." I gaped at him. It hadn't even crossed my mind he might offer, and there I was going, but instead of yes, 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 please, 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 because nobody had ever asked me to join a group before, and I'd wanted a friend like Tsukumajuku, but didn't ever imagine myself joining the group, and I was scared. This was so beyond my wildest dreams it left me petrified. I couldn't believe it was happening. Mouth flapping, I eventually managed to say, "Then once I've proven I deserve to be here." They both laughed. "No need." But I needed it. I thought frantically. There is a sunken glider at the bottom of the cliff," I said. "If you've given up on it, can I have it?" "Sure," Stephen said. "But that's been underwater a while now." "Yeah, I'll pull it out, dry it off, and look it over. You know why it crashed?" "No. Kenton said it fell like a bird or something hit it, and then it just fell apart in the air." "Then I guess my girl should be figuring out why it crashed, correcting that, and making it fly again." Kenton broke up laughing. "That's a pretty lucky first go. Why you want to start out by surpassing us? Sounds good. You don't fake smile." "Oh? Should I go for something a little easier?" "Don't even think about it. No, take it back now. Man, I don't know if you're bold or wimpy, but don't worry. We'll help." So we all took the wagon back to the cliff and pulled the shattered glider out of the water. "Good thing my wings are out," Stephen said. He did almost all the work of getting the glider up. All I could really do was take the pieces from him and load them into the wagon. We took it back to the Joestar Manor and unloaded the pieces in a corner of the garden. There were any number of missing parts. Steve offered to share from his stash, but I refused, hell-bent on repairing the glider on my own. I did borrow some documents from him, and began studying them intently, learning as much as I could about airplanes while repairing the glider. The White brothers were one step ahead of everyone else in aeronautics, and had successfully built a manned propeller plane the year before. Stephen and Kenton had been studying wing warping controls, and the glider I'd seen them fly, Motorizing 7, was the result. The one we pulled out of the water was Motorizing 5. Motorizing 6 had been smashed against the cliff face by a sudden gust of wind, destroying it. Stephen had been forced to open his wings and grab his sister out of the air. "Since Stephen has his own brains," Kenton said, "he can't really turn a fair about airplanes. I however want to be like Stephen, so they've done me fine, but I was in danger of crashing. So Stephen has to stick by me, and seeing him fires me up, and I wind up taking even more risks." Some sister. The other sister never came near the work shed again, but she was in class and we talked occasionally. Even if Darlington brought up airplanes, I wouldn't talk about them. I'd no idea what pranks the other kids might pull, and if their efforts to torment me caused trouble for Stephen and Kenton, that'd be just awful. We had nothing much to talk about besides airplanes, so we ended up talking about novels. Darlington didn't seem like a heavy reader to me, but he had almost all the books I'd acquired on the Canary Islands, and offered to loan me books I hadn't read yet. I assume I'd picked them up while visiting Stephen, but she went so far as to set a date and time, and the day in question was when our class ended early, but Stephen and Kenton were still at school, so I'm pretty sure I was going to end up waiting in the parlour for them to get home for ages. I'd yet to set foot inside the Motorize manor, but could easily imagine it not being anything like as fun and carefree as their shed. And I was only really reading novels when I was taking breaks from studying airplanes, and would gladly have given them up if it meant I didn't have to keep talking to Darlington. But she was so insistent, it seemed much easier to just go instead of trying to worm my way out of it, so I went. When I mentioned this the day before, Kenton laughed. "Ah, that explains why she keeps borrowing novels from Dad's library and scowling at them. She was making excuses to talk to you." "Huh?" Stephen winced. "Ken, don't tell him." "Nah, it's cute. I'm sure she got a crush on you, George." No way, that can't be right," I spluttered. "Why not?" "Well, I think she's pretty popular with the boys in class, and because I'm the only one not very interested, she winds up trying to get my attention. I'm like the prize of a hunt, and she'll keep it up till she's satisfied, but it's not really me she wants. I can sense it. There's like a stubbornness there, like Darlington's trying to find the right strategy to get to me." Both Kenton and Stephen looked rather surprised. "Ha! Aren't you perceptive?" Kenton said. "I think you've hit the nail on the head, but consider me impressed. Boys your age generally get pretty carried away the second a girl like Darlington shows the slightest interest." "I don't know. I don't have any other friends, so I'm sort of happy she comes and talks to me at all. And since Darlington talks to me, the others are leaving me alone more. I'm sure they'll be back once Darlington tires of her toy." "Huh. George, are you already in love with someone else?" Kenton grinned. My thoughts instantly went to Lisa, to my horror. "Why Lisa? Why now?" "No, I'm not." "Ah, you're flustered. That means you are. I know it." I'm not. "You absolutely are. That's nice. I don't know why you think you need to hide it. You don't." "Because I'm not." "You so are." At last Stephen saved me. "Cut it out. You've toyed with George as much as Dad does." She did. Point well made. "Well, George is that type. You can't help messing with him. Listen, George, I know you've had all kinds of bad stuff happen to you, but that was because you were surrounded by children. Children are idiots who don't know how they should behave. They want to tease you a bit, but wind up being really mean, because they suck at it. That's the boys end up being really mean to the girl they've got a crush on, you know. But you're in high school now, so you're about to become really popular. Look forward to it. You're plenty good looking, if bizarrely gloomy." This caught me so off guard I didn't know how to answer. I could hear a denial echoing through my mind, but no thoughts formed. Then Kenton added, "But I guess you won't care. You're already in love." "I love you, Lisa. "Oh! Why did I just think that?" I was dying of embarrassment. "I'm not in love. I'm not at all," I shrieked. "I've been debating whether to mention this or not," Stephen said. But you live with your mother and another really pretty woman, don't you? Eh? Penelope? Really? Huh? George, you're already living together? Wow! Kenton had clearly lost it completely, and Stephen wouldn't stop grinning. You're a lucky boy, he said. I didn't know he had it in him. This was such a weird thing to say, it calmed me down. Nothing like that. Kenton and Stephen both went wide-eyed. Oh. Huh? He's telling the truth. Huh. Then it's someone else he loves. Somewhere else. Did he live up behind the Canary Islands? Elizabeth Straits was in Rome now, right? Me too, George. I love you too. Oh, why was she saying that? Why was I thinking about her again? Enough! I'm not. Liar, you just went bright red. I'm not. I swear I'm not. The way you can't lie at all is so fun and adorable, George. And I got teased mercilessly for it. That night, in the simple tent I'd set up in the garden in place of a proper work set, I finished putting together the parts of the glider we'd saved, about 70% of it, and it finally looked like an airplane. Looking it over, I noticed 2 sets of 4 parallel grooves on top of the white top ring. I couldn't see them as anything but the claw marks, left by some 4-fingered thing that had grabbed the wing, and the location of the marks was clearly where the glider had started to fall apart. One of the wires that warped the rings was severed in just that spot. It spooked me. Kenton had said she hit a seabird, but she'd been the pilot and couldn't see the back of the wings. Had something been hiding back there, trying to crash the plane? I didn't want to deal with this alone, so I made up my mind to bring it up when I was visiting the Motorize mansion the next day. A bright morning gave way to heavy clouds and cold rain, and I was dreading the whole thing, but school ended and I entered the Motorize manor, was led to the parlour, and sipped the tea Faraday bought, until Darlington came in with Heart of Darkness in her hand, and asked, George, are you in love with anyone? I made a strange shrill sound and nearly spit my tea, but stopped myself, swallowed, and gasped, No. I am. Oh? What? Nothing. You aren't going to ask who? Eh? I'm not asking. William Cardinal. Don't know him. He's 2 grades above us. He and Stephen know each other. He's quite the athlete, and he's smart, and he'll be a doctor someday. But really he wants to write novels. Huh. So, he says your opinion of Emily Brondt's Wuthering Heights is odd. The way you support Heathcliff's revenge. The book itself describes that as a curse or the work of spirits. He says if you really read that book cackling with glee like you said, he says you must be very odd indeed. I had indeed. Totally laughed my ass off reading Wuthering Heights. Go get him, Heathcliff. Good work. But sadly he wasn't that effective, didn't accomplish all that much, and at the end the author tried to force a happy ending, which I'd found highly disappointing. I kind of remembered mentioning this while chatting with Darlington, but whatever the author intended, it's up to the reader how they respond to it. And not that I've ever tried to write one, but characters in a novel don't always do what the author intends. I've got no problems debating my take on the book with this William Cardinal, but I do question you bringing up his criticism of my take with me here. I don't mind if you criticise me, but using someone else's words to do it isn't right, Darlington. If you want to criticise me or talk shit about me or be mean to me, at least you use your own words. I'm sure William Cardinal didn't expect those words to reach you like this, so you're being rude to him too. Anyway, I'm not going to bother that book for you. I don't want to deal with you being rude about my take on it again, and if I can't be honest about my opinion, why should I borrow a book from you? I pushed the book back across the table to her. Why are you mad? Darlington said. I'm not mad, just surprised. I thought we were getting along, but then you suddenly attacked me. If you secretly didn't like me or weren't happy with what I think, don't pretend that we're friends. I don't have that many friends, so the last thing I want is to be disappointed by the ones I think I have. Well, sorry. You can go now. I will. I stood up and left the parlour. I ran into Faraday, thanked him for the tea, and was about to leave when he said, Oh, Master Joestar, a friend of yours was just here searching for you. Eh? A friend of mine? I just lost one of the few I could call friend, and the other 2 were Stephen and Kenton. Here? Can you describe them? He looked like a young boy, primary or middle school. He spoke Spanish at first. I led him over here to the other parlour. Rain pounding down outside, he led me down a gloomy hallway, across the central hall, and into a room in the other wing. He knocked on the door, and it echoed dully. "I'll take my leave here," Faraday said, and left, leaving me alone with my anxiety. I peered into the room, and saw nobody inside. A friend? A Spanish one? Had someone from the Canary Islands come pretending to be my friend? Stealing my nerves, I stepped through the door. When I saw who was standing in the back, my vision blurred, my legs shook, and my head spun so fast I could barely stand. "What?" I whispered, feeling myself about to topple. "You've grown awfully tall since I last saw you." He laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard since he vanished last summer in the Atlantic Ocean, since the day I thought he died. Suku Majuku. Asian faces did look young to Western eyes, but this wasn't really. "How are you?" How could he have known I'd be here? Tears welled up in my eyes. "I exist now in eternity, in the final frontier," Sukumajuku said. "But I expect I won't be there forever. There must be some meaning for me to have come back. Like I always said, everything has meaning. You wanted me here, or something needed me for your benefit. We have no time, my friend. By the way, where is this? There are no buildings this splendid on the Canary Islands." The familiar sound of Sukumajuku's voice calmed me from my simple-minded emotional reaction, and I felt my mind waking up the way it had during our adventures together. Look carefully and think. Sukumajuku had said these words to me countless times. Look carefully. So I did. Sukumajuku was floating about 5 centimetres above the surface of the floor. I looked up and met his eye. "Yes," he said. "It seems I can't really say I'm actually here. I'm not sure if I should tell you, but I'm currently in Japan, in the year 2012. I'm there with a different you, a Japanese boy completely unlike you, but also named Jorge Joestar. I've been transported to a place called the Arrow Cross House, and I've gotten caught up in another case." 2012? That was 107 years from now. Another me? A Japanese Jorge Joestar. Arrow Cross House. I had no idea what he was talking about. But, you're caught up in a case? Need help? Nah, the other Jorge Joestar's here. I'm sure it'll be fine. Probably. Like I said, I'm not here to get your help. I'm here to help you. Are you in some sort of danger right now? Danger? No, I mean, I don't have many friends, but I've made friends since moving to England. Basically, I'm fine. Oh, well, that's good. So there must be some other reason. Oh, look. He jerked his chin at his left hand. From the wrist out, it was fading, see-through. I see. I'm Sukumajuku. I may be in one other place as well, he said cryptically. Sukumajuku smiled at me. I see. I'll need to cross the bridge. Somebody somewhere else has taken hold of my left hand. The palm is small, the fingers thin, so it must be a girl. And she needs you. Take my other hand, he said, holding out his right hand. I reached out to take it, then stopped. Why is it you're doing this? Sukumajuku laughed. Your beyond is making it happen. I'm sure this isn't a task just anyone could accomplish. For a miracle like this to occur, you need the name of God. God is words, words are names. This was even more cryptic, but he was rabbiting on about beyond again. This was definitely Sukumajuku, so I relaxed. I'd missed that too. Is your weird-ass name the name of God? Yes, Sukumajuku is 910-910-9. If you flip the kanji for 9, you get the astrological symbol for Jupiter, Jupiter being the Roman name for the Greek god Zeus, the god of gods. The kanji for 10 is a cross. So my name is 3 all-powerful gods, linked together by 2 crosses. If God is the Trinity, God can be split into 3. I'm in the Arrow Cross House. I'm here, and I'm trying to connect to a third me. You have to go to where he is. Take my hand. I laughed at the note of authority he placed on that command, felt a wave of exhilaration wash over me, the like I'd not seen since our adventures together, and took his hand. The nature of my name suggests that we'll meet again. One more time, Sukumajuku said, and everything faded to black. In the darkness, the hand I was holding no longer belonged to Sukumajuku. A small palm and thin fingers. A girl's hand. She seemed to be as surprised as me, and in darkness so thick I couldn't see my own nose, I heard her ask, "Eh? Who?" And shock and fear struck us both upside the head, like our brains had been replaced with gas. "It's me, Lisa, I said. That was all she needed. "George, why are you here?" I couldn't begin to explain the why or how of it, but the Lisa holding my hand in the darkness was definitely real, more so than Sukumajuku had been. "Calm down, Lisa. Where are we?" "Rome. In an underground temple nobody has set foot in for over 1,000 years. How can you possibly be here? I can't believe it." I couldn't begin to explain. More importantly, what's going on? An underground temple? The air was damp and cold, and smelt of mould and dust. It felt like the ground under my feet was paved with stones, and despite the total lack of light, it decidedly felt like a place that actually existed. And why is it so dark here? "My light was stolen. I had a lamp a moment ago." "Stolen? Was there someone else here?" "I came with my dad and everyone, but we got separated ages ago. I can't call it an enemy, but there's something protecting something." "Something protecting what?" "The red stone of Asia." "What's that?" "I don't know. Nobody alive has ever seen it. It's a jewel of some kind. A Roman emperor hid it, supposedly." "Are you actually here to plunder it, Lisa? Are you treasure hunting?" "No, dummy. The Hamon warriors are. Until I joined Straits properly, I assumed we were hunting vampires and zombies. But that's not true at all. We're actually protecting mankind and their secrets." "Oh, thanks." Lisa did a spit take and started giggling. I couldn't see her in the darkness, but that just made me extra sensitive to her voice, and I had to admit, she had a really cute voice. "World's fastest gratitude, George. Don't be so quick to swallow a line about mankind's secrets." "I've seen enough to know what you're fighting is real." "Right. You enjoying high school? I heard you've moved to England and you're going to school there." "Was it fun?" "Not school. Stephen and Kenton were good people, but I just had that fight with Darlington." No. This is hardly the time to talk about that, is it, Lisa? "But George, I keep imagining how much fun you're having in school, and that's what keeps me going. You get to have friends and live a normal life, and I picture you laughing with everyone, and that gives me strength." If she put it that way, I had to say I was having fun, I thought. "You aren't being bullied again, are you?" Lisa said, a hint of the fierceness she'd had when we were kids in her voice. "No, I have friends," I said, panicking. "They're amazing. We're studying how to make airplanes. You know about airplanes, Lisa? They let humans fly. The ones we're making are all wood and cloth, but there are people out there making them out of metal with heavy engines on board. They can make metal fly. Can you imagine it? And I figured out how it works. The speed provides vertical lift." Was that simplification completely true? I stopped to think, and Lisa said, "Oh, airplanes. You finally discovered airplanes, George." "Yes. Why, you jealous? The English are always on the cutting edge." Talking about how much fun I was having made Lisa get really quiet, and I didn't know what to do. I thought she just said she wanted me to be happy. As my mind raced, I heard a sound behind me, like something moving, scraping against the ground. It was maybe 3-5 meters, but it was still pitch black, so I couldn't tell you how I knew. But somehow, I was sure this thing was humongous. I could hear it breathing. It let out a long, wet sigh, like a fat man who just reached the top of the stairs. Lisa whispered hoarsely. "My lamp. I think this is the thing that took it." Her voice was shaking. She was scared. It sighed again, and this time I could hear it vibrating past the thing's lips. I could sense imposing muscle mass, like 20 gorillas fused into one glaring at us. Had she been facing this thing alone? Lisa had called me, and Sukamajuku had let me come. Hate to treat you like a handy tool, but I am grateful, Sukamajuku. I let out a slow, long sigh. This giant monster was hiding in the darkness, sighing to let us know it was there, to put pressure on us, but not me. I was letting it know I was calm. I felt there was no point in resisting it. It had come after Lisa, but it hadn't hurt her, just stolen her lamp. Why would the monster steal a lamp? To scare Lisa. The same as this phony sigh. It was just trying to scare both of us. At the least it hadn't yet touched either of us. It wasn't the right timing yet. We weren't completely scared. We could still be more afraid. The monster was toying with us, but hadn't made a move to get rid of us completely. It hadn't shown itself at all while Lisa and I were talking normally. Yeah, if we acted normal it wouldn't show up. So why had it come out now? What had brought it out? Oh, because Lisa went quiet. Why? Because I'd mentioned airplanes. I didn't know why me talking about airplanes made Lisa depressed, but that had clearly been the mood changer. So was I right in thinking the monster had been hiding somewhere, noticed the change in mood, and was like, oh yeah, my turn, and popped out? No monster that ridiculous could actually exist. Monsters generally showed up to ruin peace and good times. They didn't usually give a shit what the mood was. In other words, the monster with us here certainly existed, but Lisa had actually summoned it. Her feelings brought it here. Right, when the monster showed up, Lisa had gone quiet. But I was still normal and happy, super excited about the potential future of aeronautics. My emotions didn't matter. This monster came from Lisa's feeling. This conclusion still left me wondering what it all meant. But whatever, I wasn't wrong. As long as I wasn't wrong, that was all I needed. It's all right, Lisa, I said. I didn't tell her the monster wasn't attacking for fear that would just make her focus on the monster even more. What now? What's all right? You and me. Even if we're apart, we'll be okay. What do you mean? You mean you're okay without me? Lisa said. I could feel the monster coming closer. It felt like a load of gorillas combined to form a giant spider. Whoa. This definitely came from Lisa's emotions. No, I said. Even when we're far apart, mysterious powers can bring us together again, like today. Lisa seemed relieved, and the gorilla thing moved away. Oh, but how did you get here? You were in England, right? Even if you came to Rome, there's no way you could ever get inside the secret temple. Are you really George? The real George? I'm not just imagining you. I was pretty sure it was the gorilla spider in the darkness that she was imagining. I'm real. Hard to prove in the dark, but... As I spoke, she moved her face closer to mine, and even though it was dark, Lisa kissed me right on the lips. The kiss was electrified, not because it surprised me. No, something hot and cold and numbing ran from my lips to the back of my brain and down my spine, until my toes were zzz. Our first kiss, at least my first kiss and probably Lisa's first kiss, so she didn't recognise she'd accidentally let ham on ripple through me. I recognised it. It felt just like the time she'd hit me with her indigo blue overdrive in the hall of our school when I was 11. In the darkness, my eyes rolling back in my head, her soft lips on mine, I forced myself to withstand the electric shock. After a moment, Lisa noticed and squeaked, sorry, George. I was glad she'd noticed. It was best if she forgot the gorilla spider had gone away. My legs were still not quite under my control, but I said, let's walk a bit, and Lisa helped me take a few steps farther. There was no point in just standing there, and if Lisa's emotions shifted again and something else came out, I was scared I'd wind up electrocuted again. Sorry, George. It's just hilarious. I can't stop laughing about it. Please, can I have another? No, George, you're too funny. But laughing has calmed me down. I'm breathing properly again. Good. I can feel out the terrain with my hamon as we walk. Eh? You're running hamon through the ground? Yes, but it's not attack hamon. I'm just sensing where the walls and stuff are. Okay, just warn me when you do it. Eh? Okay then, here we go. Now! I jumped as high as my legs would let me. Oh God, stop. Don't make me laugh anymore. But it's scary. It's not, I promise. Lisa's face came closer to mine again, and kissed me again. But there was no shock this time. Just Lisa's gentle, soft kiss. See? Oh, yes, right. I didn't say it out loud, so I said it again. Right. I know where to go. She took my arm and pulled me farther in, like she could see everything around us. I staggered along after us. Every time she used her mom to fill the road, I jumped in the air, and she broke up laughing, but I wasn't joking. I never imagined searching this temple for the stone would be so filled with wacky hijinks, Lisa said, doubled over with laughter. Oh, I found a torch. She picked something up out of the darkness, struck it against the stones, and the sparks lit the fire. With a thoom, the torch lit the room. At some point, I guess Lisa had been able to see it, but it was a surprise to me. We'd entered a giant treasure chamber, filled with massive vases and chests and jewels and precious metals and statues made of metal and armour and weapons scattered everywhere in great heaps. The room was so big the light of the torch didn't reach the ceiling of the far walls, and every inch of it was packed with the secrets of ancient Rome. Thick pillars stretched up from the floor, forming a circle around where we were. The room itself was circular, and we found ourselves surrounded not just by pillars, but by 3-metre-tall stone guardians placed here and there in the piles of treasure. The guardians were all hideous, glaring at us with terrifying scowls. Where we stood was the centre of the sea of treasure. There, Lisa said, picking up a large red jewel the size of her palm. I could instantly see the gem was pure, without any flaws at all. It seemed as if the stone itself glowed, reflecting more light than the torch provided. I found it. Hey, George, will you put this on me? Lisa handed me the red stone. It was far lighter than I'd expected, so much so I almost didn't believe it existed. There was so little weight to it, it was almost like I was seeing things, so I poked it with the tip of my finger. It was hard, yet there was something soft about it, like the skin on the tip of my finger was being absorbed into it. Come on, Lisa said. I turned towards her. She had her back to me and had gathered up her long hair, revealing the white at the nape of her neck. The jewel was fitted to a pendant, so I passed that round the other side of her thin neck and closed the clasp on the chain behind her head. Standing behind her like this, I could see her neck and shoulders and the swell of her chest and had to fight off a sudden urge to throw my arms around her. What was I thinking? This was Lisa. Part of me was still thinking like that, but we'd already kissed. Wait, why had we kissed? I hadn't. She'd kissed me. Did Lisa like me? It seemed so. Why? Did I have feelings for Lisa? But once I started asking myself questions like that, I knew only too well I'd start going in circles. So I decided to put it off for later. George, Lisa said, about this red stone. Her voice had none of the giddiness threatening to overrun my mind. Yeah? Promise you won't tell anyone I have it. Okay, but why? Not because I want to keep it all to myself, understand? I have to protect this stone with my life. If you let anybody else know I have it, I'll have to hide it somewhere and then die. Eh? And if that happens, I'll kill you too, George, so that we can be together in the next world. She was smiling, but I knew she wasn't joking. So I'm going to tell everyone that this is a present from you, George, as proof of our vows. Eh? But I really will say that. How does it look? As necklaces go, isn't it a bit too gaudy? Smiling in the light of the torch, Lisa had long eyelashes, strong features, big eyes, high cheeks, a turned-up nose, a strong chin and beautiful hair. She was every bit a match for the size of the stone, but I couldn't put that into words. Lisa hid the pendant inside her clothes when we left the treasure room. A few minutes walking by torchlight to me at the entrance, and Straits was waiting for her. Everyone was super surprised to see me. Jorge Joestar, why are you? Sorry to drop in, I said, and Lisa cracked up again, and all the Hamon warriors looked astonished to see her smile. Lisa described the vault, and said there had been such a vast quantity of jewels there she'd been unable to find a red stone. She bowed her head, and Straight said, It's amazing you were even able to reach the treasure room. Nobody's ever been able to get there before. Weren't you scared? Yes, Lisa said. If George hadn't been with me, I don't think I'd ever have made it through. Straight and the others all nodded gravely, but I could hear them mumbling about how I'd come to be there. Lisa summoned me, I said. Hey, she said, slapping my arms. But wasn't that what had happened? After that, we left the secret temple, moved stealthily to the Hamon warrior's secret base, where I borrowed the phone and called home. Penelope answered, sounding beside herself, and when she heard I was in Italy, she was shocked, and even more flustered, so my mother took the phone from her. "Hello, George? You're in Rome?" "Yeah, sorry, I can't really explain how I came to be here." That's fine, as long as you're safe. Do you have a chair?" "Yeah." "Then sit down and listen." "Okay." I moved to the chair and sat down. "I'm sitting." "Listen closely. Did you go to the Motorize manor today?" "Yes, I promised Darlington I would." "Okay. Did you see either of the older children?" "No. Why?" "They found the older girl, Kenton Motorize, on the Cape." "What does that mean?" "She's dead, George." "Huh?" I shot up out of my seat, and all the Hamon warriors turned to look at me, including Lisa. "What? But how? Was she alone?" "They're always worried about accidents, so Stephen's always with her." "Kenton Motorize told her brother you'd invited her there and went out alone. Your airplane was at the scene, the one you'd been working on in the garden." I could tell Mum was fighting back tears, but I was just confused. "Hey? So Kenton took my plane out, got on it, and crashed? That made no sense. Kenton knew full well I wasn't done repairing it. Why would she do that?" Mum interrupted my thoughts. "It wasn't an accident, George. The airplane didn't crash. Kenton Motorize was stabbed over and over on top of the cliff. Stabbed with a knife that bore the Joestar crest. And your airplane was there with her. Oh, George, can you explain what happened to the police and Stephen Motorize?" I could not. End of Chapter 7. Chapter 8. Nero Island. The murders of Kira Yoshikage and Tsukumajuku, the 3 displays made from the bodies of murdered detectives, Morio setting sail, the group's suicide of village residents, the mysterious figure hiding inside Cube House, and now on top of all that, another mysterious moving island sailing across the sea, just like Morio. There were just too many things I had to think about, I thought. It'd been one thing after another, and I had no time to really work any of them over in my mind. Oh well, I had to assume this was the speed events always unfolded at in Morio. I had to keep up. "Fuck! I've got no damn idea what's going on. Let's go take a look," Nijimura Fukushigi said, and started to get on a dolphin. "Hang on, Fukushigi," I said. "There might be people like you on that island too. Better not to show our hands." Morio seemed to have quite a lot of stand masters. If that unusual quality had something to do with it floating away, then that could be true over there too. If there are 2 islands moving across the water, they may be similarly unique. How many other stand masters were there in Morio anyway? How many stand masters had been among the hundreds who died in Jozenji? Fukushigi grit his teeth and got off the dolphin. The other island was getting steadily closer. "Maybe this will help us recon," Morio Taisu said, emerging from our cross with a telescope and a pair of binoculars, presumably Rohan's. "Oh," I said, impressed. I was kicking myself inside though. "Morio Taisu, better not go inside our cross for a bit. Earlier I found Cube House hidden inside it, and there was someone inside Cube House. Someone suspicious." "What?" Morio Taisu looked at the new island, and back at Cube House, as if not sure which one he should tackle first. "I've locked Cube House up, and made sure we'll know if anything goes in or out," I said. "I don't know, man. How do you get in?" "Oh, directly above and below the desk in the study." "Got it," he said, and went back inside. He came back out a few minutes later, and explained. "I set up a hidden video camera." I was sure the camera was Rohan's too, and the idea of him just doing whatever he wanted with Rohan's things made me want to laugh, but there was too much going on for that. "Whoa! That ain't Japan! It's some foreign island!" Fukushigi yelled. I took the binoculars off him and took a look. He was right. The view was nothing you'd see in Japan. There were only a few buildings in sight, but they were mostly made of brick, and there were several windmills. Not sights you saw a lot in Japanese country towns. The crops waving in the wind looked like reet. I looked down at the water's edge. There were several ships with Italian names. I found a sign by the road leading from the docks to the town. It said, "Welcome to Nero Island" in Italian. "Nero Island," it says, Motorize went back inside our cross, and came back out with an encyclopedia. Nero Island was about a tenth the size of Morio, population roughly 3,000. I knew a bit more that wasn't written in the encyclopedia. Nero's Italian for black. Nero Island has a long history as a mafia base. I had to do a lot of research about organised crime around the world for a previous case. These days, Nero Island is the headquarters of the Passion family. They've got about 300 members, territory reaching to Rome and Napoli, the Poles in English. They're competing with the Sicilian Mafia and the Camorra, so how a group this small survives? Well, I didn't know how before, but since Nero's on the move, I bet there's a good chance they've got a lot of stand masters in their ranks. They're already fairly unique in that there aren't any records of the boss's face, and he's so secretive that not even the inner circle has ever met the boss. The only name anyone even has for him is Diavolo, Italian for devil. Hey, what's that? Just like Morio, the Nero Island harbour and part of the ocean around were inside a giant bubble. I just found the truck racing down the road to the harbour. Looks like they're in trouble, Motorize said, looking through the telescope. I can see people in the back, waving at us. What? I looked, but the magnification on the binoculars wasn't strong enough. I squinted trying to see, and the truck suddenly went up in flame and rolled. Ah! We yelled. Figures emerged on either side of the burning truck, approached the people lying on the ground, and light flashed at their hands. Pop! 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 Shit! 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 Fuck! They're killing everyone on the truck! Jesus! They ambushed that truck. God damn it! I gotta go help! Motorize tossed the telescope aside and flew off into the sky with his 3 dolphins. All I could do was watch. There was a barrier around Morio, and nothing inside or out could get through it. They'd rammed a jet fighter into it and shot missiles at it and couldn't break through the wall. But if Motorize somehow got through, that would definitely change things. Shit! There's still one alive! I could see someone running through the grass towards us. He must have slipped away while the gunmen were attacking the truck. He was waving desperately in the direction of Morio, begging us to help. Light flashed around him. Bang, bang, bang! Like he was knocked aside by an invisible hand, the man running towards us went sprawling on the ground. Can't you do anything, dipshit? Fukushigi yelled. NYPD Blue had picked up the telescope and was looking through it. He bellowed back, What the fuck do you want me to do? Shoot back? He pulled a gun out of his side holster. It was huge and very real. He put it away immediately. This bad boy is a Colt Python. It's loaded with .357 Magnums. It's from the first production run they ever did. It's damn close to being a work of art. This fucker hits you or blow the back of your head clean off. If it hits you. Even the best gun has an effective range, kid. Bullets don't fly forever. They slow down, their arc changes, then they turn into a bit of lead and land somewhere. That's how bullets work. Even if I had a fucking sniper rifle, I couldn't hit them at this range. Even if I could, there's a barrier between us. Probably 2. Ah! So you can't fucking do anything? I am doing something. I'm gathering evidence. I'll arrest all these motherfuckers. Arrest? Fuck that. We have to help those people. No can do, asshole. Looks like one of the murder squad is Passion's Docio Cicolata. 4 pieces of paper shot out of NYPD's Blue's side, from the gap of his shirt. I picked them up. They were copies of the files Interpol, the Italian police, the CIA and the FBI had on him. Not only had he sold drugs in America, he'd even been involved in terrorist activity. I'm broadcasting video footage live to all 4 organizations. Ah, Secco Rotaria's there too. Passion members running around their base, killing ordinary citizens. Either they're trying to kill the boss and cutting off his escape, or they already did it and are cleaning up. 3 men who looked like farmers made it to the harbour, jumped in a boat and headed towards us. Motorize was in Morio harbour trying to reach them, but was stuck helplessly behind the barrier. He'd begun throwing his shoulder against it, trying to break through, but the invisible wall refused to budge. Over on Nero Island, the farmer's boat crashed into another invisible wall. The prow rammed headlong into it, the boat tilted sideways, and the farmers were flung out of their seats. One landed on the boat, but the other 2 went in the water. There was a good 200 metres between the 2 barriers. Muriel Tyson and his dolphins kept up their assault, but couldn't break through the wall. 200 metres away, bolts came after the escape boat. Light flashed. Bang, bang. Bang, bang, bang. Ah! Shit, shit, shit! Fukushigi yelled. I couldn't watch and turned my eyes away and saw more paper lying on the ground. I picked it up and read it. One sheet was Seko Watario's hospital records. It didn't name any kind of psychological or physical condition. The only thing written on it was the name of his doctor, Dolce Cioccolata. Wait, he was a doctor? I looked back up and the slaughter had ended. The three in the boat weren't the only ones who reached the water. There were other bodies lying on the docks. The Mafia members moved them out of sight, dropping the bodies in the water between the boats, or tossing them into the tall grass by the side of the road to the harbour. Most likely, they only bothered so it'd be easier to kill anyone else who came running, if there was anyone left alive. Hey, they can see our island, right? Fukushigi said, his lips quivering. How can they just kill people in plain sight? I didn't answer, but there was only one answer, because it wouldn't cause any problems, or because they knew they could stop it from being a problem. The Mafia got rid of problems in three main ways: bribes, threats, and murdering witnesses. There was no way they'd try and buy or threaten however many people there in Morio, but would they really try and kill everyone here? No matter how many of them there were, could they really manage that? I remembered the message Koichi Hirose had received from the former American president. He said if nothing changes, the American army will flip the island. That was delivered shortly after Morio changed course. The sudden swerve west had put Funny Valentine in danger, so he had clearly noticed it. By nothing changes, he meant if we kept heading west, so he was still headed in the dangerous direction he'd warned us about. Was it possible the Mafia was aware of the American army's intentions? According to the records NYPD Blue Stomach had printed out, Pashon had already started operating in America, and there were no lines of business the Mafia couldn't find a way to profit on, so they must have been making political and military contacts. Perhaps these had informed them. But Nero Island was running alongside Morio. It too was travelling in the same dangerous direction. Perhaps Nero had received the same threat from America, and they'd taken advantage of the panic to start infighting. Were they certain their powers would allow them to survive what was coming? Whatever was going through the Passion members' minds, the threat to Morio was still very real. Barrier Chimaru had suggested we'd have to police ourselves, but that had mostly been an appeal to Kira Yoshikage's state of mind. So in my opinion, we'd need to be prepared for further attacks from the outside. As I reached this conclusion, Murio Taisu came riding back to us on his dolphin. He looked exhausted, physically and mentally. Fuck those guys, he said, shaking with rage. I wasn't sure what a high school delinquent could do against the Mafia, but he was in no mood to have this pointed out. Whatever it was he could do, we all had to work together now. Morio Taisu, you have any idea how many stand masters there are in Morio? He thought for a minute, then shook his head. How could I? How many do you know about? I can't just tell you that. Come on, this isn't the time for that, I said, and trailed off, gaping. It was starting. Shit, 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 shit! Here it comes! Fukushigi shrieked. Murio Taisu turned to look. Nero Island had been running off Morio's starboard side, but it had suddenly veered portwise towards us. The head of the island was approaching diagonally. We were heading straight west, so Nero Island's head came ramming into Morio's south side, into Morio Harbour, right before our eyes. Oh shit! I yelled, thinking furiously. The barrier had stood up to a jet fighter and a missile attack, but could it stop another barrier? Another island? Morio's barrier was larger, but when two ships crashed into each other, size was less important than the angle. Morio was unable to avoid the attack. There was a dull roar, and Morio lurched sideways as the other island slammed into it. Fuck! We yelled, hastily crouching down in the grass. We put our hands on the ground to steady ourselves, but to no avail. There was a zoomp as Morio recovered that sent me and the Nijimura brothers rolling head over heels towards the harbour. When we managed to stop ourselves and look up, we saw Nero Island slowly rising out of the water. It hadn't stopped moving forward on impact. Instead, the two barriers slid against each other, forcing the smaller island upwards. Soon we could see what was propelling the island forward. Nero Island hadn't just been floating. It had been swimming. As the underside of Nero Island came into view, two massive legs appeared, skittering against the side of the barrier.
I'm not too good with insects,
Fukushigi said. There was an ear-splitting rumble. The ground shook, and then there was a thundering crack as if lightning was hitting the entire sky at once, and we all clapped our hands to our ears as Nero Island came crashing through the barrier dome and landed in Morio Harbour. The weight of the other island had broken through the barrier. The barrier's soundproofing was gone too. The massive island hit the sea with a horrible thud. A white wall of waves rose up, rocking the still waters of the harbour, doing terrible things to the boats and the coastal parts of town. While the wreckage was still being tossed around in the churn, Nero Island moved forward, the two legs reaching up. Two more massive muscular legs reached out from the sides of the island, hooked their claws onto the side of the hole in the barrier, and began squeezing the rest of its body, the island, through the gap. We no longer remembered to scream. The sound of the waves in Morio Harbour echoed off the interior of the dome, the thud slamming into our bodies. It was painful, like our ears were ripping open, like someone was driving a nail into our head. But we didn't dare close our eyes. Nero Island had twisted its massive body into the sky above Morio Harbour, and was now standing on 6 legs. It was neither island nor ship, but an insect. My legs were shaking and my entire body felt numb. I couldn't move a muscle. Murio, Taisu and Fukushigi were both standing perfectly still, mouths open, all colour drained from their faces. Only the stands were moving. Grand Blue's 3 dolphins slid up next to Murio Taisu and started shoving into him, chirping. He snapped out of his trance just as... Bang! An explosion rang out over the sound of the waves. I jumped and spun around, and found NYPD Blue aiming his Colt Python at Nero Island, smoke curling from the barrel. NYPD Blue grunted. I know perfectly well that didn't reach 'em. That was a wake-up call, you little fucks. We got no time to stand around gawking. Wake the fuck up, you punk motherfuckers. What now? If I was in charge here, I'd say we retreat and regroup. I had no objections to that plan. The Nijimuras and I stood up, dashed past our crosshouse to the other side of the hill, and were about to jump on Murio Taisu's dolphins when I remembered something. Remi Sugimoto. I let go of Johanna's fin, dropped back to the slope, used the momentum to swing myself into a U-turn and dash back up the hill.
Hey, where you going?
I heard Fukushigi call after me as his dolphin carried him away. Remi! I yelled. Just as I reached the white pebbles around our cross, a voice behind me said, Thank you, George. I'll go. You run. Grateful for these words, I turned around and found Rohan flying behind me, blue thunder on his head. He passed me by. Let me take care of Sugimoto. But I didn't leave. No detective would leave until he was sure everyone was safe. And I had also remembered the figure inside Cube House. I couldn't run until I'd figured out who that was. Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch. Gravel flew in my wake, and I caught a glimpse of Nero Island making land in Morio Harbour through the sunroom window. The waves had already demolished the town, and now the island's giant legs were crushing the rubble. The ground in town couldn't handle the weight of the island. With each step the insect took, its feet sank into the ground, and the hollows filled with maybe seawater? Groundwater? Either way, the sea extended itself via these pocks. I almost stopped to gawk at it again, but I forced myself not to. I headed for the rest sunroom, where Morio Taisu had carried Sugimoto. Rohan and Remi were there. They were watching Nero Island trample Morio Harbour, terrified. When I saw that Sugimoto had her arms around Rohan, I hesitated, but there was no time to spare. Rohan! Remi! Can you get out of here? I called out through the window. Sugimoto jumped, but shook her head. Right, she was a stand, I thought. George, she said, I think this is the safest place. I think. Huh? If it was the old Cube House, it definitely would be. To the Cube House, the outside world is beyond the world's end, and not something that ever affects it. I knew what she was saying now. Yes, normally the 7 cubes of a tesseract form the inside of an 8th cube that it wrapped around them. Cube House was a tesseract made of square walls, so inside it was a single universe, an entire world squeezed inside, so the Cube House itself wasn't part of our universe. Nothing would affect it, which meant you could attack the crap out of it, and it would never reach the inside. The walls of the cube house were the ends of that world, which all made me wonder why Rohan and Fukushigi had avoided exploding by being placed under our cross. I had assumed it formed a vacuum, but this was clearly not the whole story. If it had been, they wouldn't have survived there for long. They lived because they weren't just under Arrow Cross, but under Cube House, because the world's very end lay on top of them. A zone where everything was reset to zero. The absolute buffer. Pushing aside my excitement, I said, "Then let's escape into Cube House." "But it's turned into Arrow Cross, so I don't know if its old power remains." Sugimoto didn't know her own power. If a stand was power manifested, perhaps it was the same as people not knowing their own strength. "No, Cube House exists simultaneously," I said. She looked surprised, and I led her and Rohan into the study. First I checked the rug. It was still in place. I inspected the top of the desk as well. Nothing out of place. No one had gone in or out. Then I moved the desk away from the door. Hey, don't touch that. To a manga artist, a desk is like a chef's kitchen or a teacher's podium. It's not something anyone else should just feel to move around as they like." I ignored him. When I moved the rug aside and revealed the door, he shut up. Sugimoto looked just as surprised. So I went below this door earlier, and there was someone there. I don't suppose you know who?" I asked. No." "Okay, then..." I debated whether I should say anything, but decided I should. Worst case scenario, Tsukumajuku's murderer is hiding out inside here. Our working theory is that Rohan didn't notice the killer arranging the display of Tsukumajuku's body and escaping because he was asleep, I said. Rohan shook his head. "That's your theory, not mine," he insisted. I cut him off. "But it's possible Rohan didn't notice his escape because he hasn't escaped yet, because he's below this door." "I see," Rohan said. "So he made that locked room without my eyes and ears detecting a thing because he made this a temporary ray point? He carried everything he needed, including Tsukumajuku, down here ahead of time, and it began work once I left the study?" Despite the events outside, Rohan sounded so calm it effortlessly dissipated all the tension I was trying to create. I certainly considered that, but I don't believe he would have had that much time to kill Tsukumajuku. After all, I met Tsukumajuku last night at 11:30 in Fuku in the town of Nishiakatsuki. No matter how fast he worked, I don't think he could have killed Tsukumajuku before dawn, or gone through all the steps he would have needed to plan this. But this isn't really the time to discuss it in detail. Rohan, do you have anything that would work as a weapon? Maybe a golf club? Can I borrow that? And a rope. I have some mountain climbing gear. I'll borrow that too. Just so you know, both were forced on me by my editors. They keep saying I should exercise more. I haven't touched them since. I don't care. Sorry, kinda in a hurry here. I stood back up and looked around for the hidden camera Motorize would set up. There. It was hidden behind a plant in the corner of the room. As I was checking the camera, Rohan came back with a golf bag and a bundle of rope. "Ah, that's my camera!" he yelled. "I had Motorize set it to record in case anyone went in or out of this door," I said. I turned the desk so it straddled the door, tied the rope to the desk and opened the door, letting it fall into the room. Rohan peered into the space below and muttered, "Oh, this was under my feet this whole time?" I dropped the rest of the rope through the door. "George," Sugimoto said, "going in there is dangerous." "Eh?" "Cube House is meant for a single occupant. If 2 or more people run around inside, it could be very bad." "Bad how?" "It could lead to contradictions. With floors and ceilings, the rooms inside turn to accommodate the people inside." "Oh, I see. As long as you move horizontally from the study, nothing can go wrong, but..." "Right. If you go below the floor, or above the ceiling, the floor of the room next door is the wall of the room next to the study." So, how does the Cube House handle these contradictions? "One of you will be pulled into a parallel universe. He'll be lost in that world and never get anywhere." That was hella scary. Has that happened before? "Nope. When Cube House was Cube House, I was all alone in here. But I know. That's how it works with powers. You know things without having to test them, but there's still lots you don't know. You know?" I wonder if the intruder I encountered had grokked to the danger of parallel worlds and run from me? I wasn't sure. But then if we go down now, isn't it still dangerous? Rohan asked, anxiously. Sugimoto smiled. Don't worry, Rohan. I'm the owner of Cube House. I'm the basis of its behaviour. I decide where the floors and ceiling and walls go. Good, but we had to hurry. Then let's go in, I said. I took a firm grip on the rope. Wait, Sugimoto said. Make sure you don't fall straight down. Eh? Oh. The door down there would catch your fall, but if you broke through the door and did that 3 times, it would be very bad. I looked up. The third door she mentioned was the door in the ceiling. The room below, the room below, the room below this one was the study, so if I broke through all 3, I'd fall forever. What would happen then? If gravity increased my fall speed here, I'd fall until I hit terminal velocity. Everything's so extreme and permanent, I muttered. It's the Cube House, Sugimoto said. Can't be helped. True. This was a world of its own. All 3 of us made it safely down the rope to the room below. It was immediately obvious Sugimoto felt more at home down here in Cube House. She smiled more. Let's go find this rude interloper, she said. Should we really leave the door up there open? Rohan muttered, looking up at it. That giant insect monster steps on it, what'll happen? I guess we're on a pretty big hill. It probably won't try climbing up here. Don't worry, Rohan, she said. There's no way it could do anything to Cube House. I remembered Rohan saying that Cube House was moved here from Nishiak Katsuki. If nobody could do anything to it, how could anyone have moved it? I don't know, Sugimoto shrugged. I sighed and raised the golf club, ready for anything. Hey, don't act like I'm supposed to know that. That's the very core of my being. Most humans couldn't tell you anything like that. Ask someone how they became what they are. Go on. She had a point, I admitted, as I lowered myself into the room below. Sugimoto and Rohan stayed in the room below the study, and I went down the room below that, opened the door in the floor, and made sure the room below that was empty. I was in the room below the study, which was also the room above the study. 3 centre doors were open, and if I fell through here and broke through the ceiling of the study, Sugimoto said that I'd fall forever. Anyone there? Nope. Then come back up. Easier said than done. But with a little effort I managed to scramble back up to the room where Rohan and Sugimoto were waiting, in the room beneath the study. Then we just have to check the 4 rooms around this one. Let's do that quick. I glanced over, and Sugimoto was watching the display on the video camera I'd brought with us. See anything? Nah. I can't hear the giant's footsteps anymore, Rohan said. Sugimoto laughed without taking her eyes off the display. Not in this house, no. Even the study is a room in Cube House now. No longer part of Arrow Cross. I sure bought one hell of a house. I opened the door to the east. Nobody inside. Okay, then I'm going round to the right, I said. Rohan nodded and tightened his grip on his golf club. Okay, but George, when you open it, don't do it slowly. Just slam the thing open like the cops do in movies. The way you're opening doors is more like a horror movie and it's making me nervous. Sure thing. I went in a circle around Sugimoto and the camera, opening doors. Bang! Nobody in the north room. Bang! Nobody in the west room. Last one. At this speed, there's no way he could get out in time. I'd saved the south door for last, for good reason. This was the door I'd sensed the intruder's presence behind, and if he was still down here, he'd be behind this door. My palms were sweating, knees weak, arms spaghetti, but I couldn't put it off any longer. I put my hand on the doorknob and glanced at Rohan. He nodded, but before I could open the door, Sugimoto shrieked and staggered backwards 3 steps, staring at the camera in her hand. What is it? Rohan said, moving over to her. But I still had to check behind this door. Bang! Empty. Good. What does this mean, Rohan? Sugimoto said, her voice trembling. I ran over, looked at the screen, and my jaw dropped as far as Rohan's had. On the screen was Sukumajuku. He climbed up the rope to the study, closed the door, put the rug back, straightened the desk he'd knocked over, put everything on the desk exactly back where it'd been so nobody could possibly tell anyone had come through the door, and then Sukumajuku, who was very clearly alive, looked right at the camera and walked towards it. We could hear his footsteps on the carpet, and a thundering crash from outside. It was the sound of Nero Island crashing through the Morio barrier. On screen, Tsukumajuku looked up, alarmed. That proved this video had been made a few minutes ago. Tsukumajuku looked at the camera, staring right into the lens, and grinned. I guess my life belongs entirely to Jorge Joestar. To both Georges. Don't worry about it. In the words of Aisan Sombra Koto, life is an explosion. My life is exploding as we speak. See you again. And with that he vanished. We stared at it dumbly for a minute, unable to think, but I couldn't afford to not think all day, so I went outside instead. Take care, Rohan said, his mind elsewhere. Confused, Sugimoto looked up at me as I was clambering through the door. Do humans come back to life sometimes? She asked. Ha ha ha, I laughed, buoyed by the sudden possibility that Tsukumajuku might be alive. I wanted to talk to that strange boy one more time. I think some people just don't die that easily. Why was it I couldn't just trust that he'd come back to life? I pulled myself up into the study, left Cube House, closed the door behind me, left Arrow House through the west sunroom, and ran down the hill. Nero Island had clambered out of the harbour and was headed into the centre of Morio. The sheer weight of it definitely made it move slower on land. It took ages for it to simply lift one of those giant insect feet, and each step sank deep into the ground, so to pull one foot out, the other 5 had to dig in, which made them sink deeper and threw the entire island's balance off. Somehow it managed not to fall over, and precariously moved its foot forward, smashing buildings as that foot sank into the ground again. As rickety as the island's movement was, I still couldn't even begin to catch up with it. My legs were too short. I mean, they were normal lengths, and I was probably on the good side of athletic, but after experiencing the joy of riding Johanna around, my 2 legs felt like slugs. Blue Thunder couldn't be reloaned, apparently. It had vanished the second Rohan took it off, and there were obviously no taxis running. My feelings were getting ahead of me, and I could almost cry. But as I got further down the hill and reached the larger road and saw the stream of emergency vehicles headed for the destruction, the drivers' grips on their wheels, and people hanging off the fire trucks by their fingernails, to a man looking like their worlds were ending, I stopped caring about my speed at all. How many people could be kept safe on Narrow Cross? Things were so bad now it might have been better if the people in the harbour had gone crazy too. I dashed down a dirt road through a field, looking up at the sky. It was almost 5, and the sun hung low in the west. With the barrier broken, the wind was blowing again. The humid, sticky sea breeze was making me sweat, but it was still an improvement. My feet felt lighter. A lot of baggage was slipping away. The sound of Nero Island's footsteps was getting closer. I turned my gaze forward, and sped up. I was almost at the battlefield. I ran through Morio suburbs. Nero Island's feet had crushed an awful lot of houses, but they'd been evacuated in time and I didn't see any signs of the loss of life. I passed the rear legs, and as I drew closer to the middle legs I glanced at the deserted station and crossed the tracks. I could make out people scurrying around the front legs. Budogoku Academy appeared to be the centre of activity, probably because lots of people had already been gathered there. I slowed down, considering my approach, when the surface of the road next to me went poof, and I jumped. A gunshot? I dove off the road into a garden and hid behind a wall. I looked around, but didn't see anyone. Then 3 more bullets went moving from the road to the wall. I could feel the impacts on this side. Thunk, thunk. At last I realised they weren't coming from my level. Above me. I looked up and saw the coast of Nero Island above me. Someone was absently shooting at me. Nero Island's belly was a good 200 metres thick, so it was around 300 metres from here to the island surface. I couldn't make out the face of the guy shooting at me, but I thought I could hear him laughing. Scrunch, 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 the bullets kept coming, all hitting the other side of the wall, but if I stayed here he was bound to get lucky eventually. 3, 2, 1. I summoned my nerve and broke away from the wall. I threw myself onto the porch of the house. Boom, 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 boom. The hail of bullets followed after me, slamming into the roof, but once I was out of sight, he gave up. I laid low until I was sure the gunfire had stopped. I let myself breathe again, then figured I should at least check on the owners of the house, since they'd saved my life. I peered in through the window, but all was quiet, no signs of anyone there. I knocked on the window and looked out. There was no answer, except for a high-pitched whine coming this way, followed by a massive explosion. A house a few plots away had exploded into a pillar of fire. A rocket launcher? Was I in a fucking war zone? Wait, if they'd been aiming the gun at me, they must have been aiming that rocket at someone else. I jumped up and ran off the porch. Someone saw me go and hastily started shooting. Behind me and to either side I heard pew 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 pounding into the pavement. But at this distance, firing blind would never hit me if I kept moving. The rocket launcher probably couldn't get me either. I hoped whoever they were aiming that at was safe. There was a ton of smoke and plenty of fire left. As I drew near the impact site, I called out, "Hey, you alive?" "George," someone answered. "Over here." Koichi Hirose was hiding in the garage on the other side of the rubble. "Oh, good. You're not hurt?" "Nope. You?" "I'm fine." I ran into the garage too. "They might fire a second missile down, so we should keep moving," Hirose said. "They got a shitload of weapons." "Right." "Here, just think and he'll fly you there," Hirose said, and put blue thunder on my head too. We flew right out of the garage. This was even better than the dolphins. I could really steer it at will with no hands. Every thought I had turned to action as if I was really flying on my own. But since the propeller was on my head, I couldn't shake the feeling that my neck hurt. It didn't. I followed after Hirose as we flew serpentine through the neighbourhood, flying just above the ground so as to better hide ourselves from the shooters on nearer island. We dodged propane tanks and bicycles until we flew into a factory and found the Nijimura brothers.
"Oh, you alive, George?"
Fukushiki said. "What about Rohan and Remy?" Morio Taisu asked. I let them know the two of them were safe inside Cube House inside our cross. I didn't mention Tsukumajuku just yet. "What's going on here?" I asked. None of them said anything immediately. Sensing the Nijimura brothers didn't want to admit they were in trouble, Hirose finally broke the silence. "Shock and awe. We're occupied and they're in control. While everyone was still in a panic because the island was stomping Morio flat, several stand masters with weapons came floating down and kidnapped all the exhausted, half-dead folks in the gym. One of them has a stand like a tornado, and it vacuumed them all up." "That was Dolce Chocolata," NYPD Blue said. "I got the evidence."
"Fuck, man! Don't just record shit, do something about it!"
Fukushiki yelled. His voice was hoarse, and the yell was more anguished than angry. "Look," NYPD Blue said, "you ordered me to go into the Mafia HQ alone. I ain't the type to back down. Like I said, up to you." "You're just a punk kid. You talk big, but talk is cheap. You gotta grow up. Match your build. Pathetic."
"Urgh! Damn it! Then what the fuck should I do?"
"I told you that too. Sit tight and wait. Diving empty-handed into a war you can't win ain't what a man does. It's what a fool who can't stand embarrassment does. For a man to sacrifice himself, he needs a better reason than shame. You gotta grin and bear it. Keep your mind flexible and wait for your moment." Fukushiki grit his teeth and went silent. "Once they had hostages, all resistance ceased," Hirose said, resuming his explanation. "They called for Mayor Shishimaru and made him their puppet. All orders from the Mafia have been relayed through him. Right now they're dragging stand masters into the open, promising not to harm anyone who comes forward of their own accord. But if they have to find us, we'll be punished. In a very Mafia-esque move, they're encouraging people to turn in anyone they know. They've got a number of people in the last hour alone. Our names may well come to light soon." "So?" I asked. "Is that it? Nothing else has happened yet?" Yeah. If they've got hostages and the mayor working for them and the hunting stand masters, they're still trying to get control. They're pretty far from getting us under their thumb completely. It just feels like they have. But really, they're still trying to get us in line, and they haven't let us know their real goal yet." "Their real goal? You think they really want to occupy Morio? They're the Mafia. There's no enemy Mafia group here. They've got no vested interests in the town at all. I won't go so far as to say there's nothing here the Mafia might be interested in. There's money and women. But everything that goes on in this town right now is being watched very closely. It's 2012. There are satellites chasing us around, manned and unmanned probes in the sky monitoring the town in real time. In the end, the Mafia steel right now can't be spent. They can't launder it or hide it. They can't sell any women. They know that. And they know it's only a matter of time before someone with real power hits these two islands and occupies us for real. The barrier's already down. They did that themselves. It won't be much longer. Whatever it is they're really trying to do will come out soon. Something they can accomplish with all this going on. Something tiny that the satellites and aircraft won't ever notice, but something very important to them. Very important how? What can Moriel people do for the Mafia? Hiro asked. Our current theory is that Kira Yoshikage is moving this island, probably to escape from all the detectives descending on the town. It's a good theory. It's probably the truth. So something like that might be happening on their end. Will these psychos run from a detective? Probably not. It's a Mafia island, and we saw them killing each other on Near Island from Arrowcross Hill. Whatever these psychos are up to has something to do with trouble in the mob. Like NYPD Blue said, if the Mafia are killing bystanders, either they're trying to kill the boss and cutting off his escape, or they already did it and are cleaning up, NYPD Blue said, repeating his own line. I did say that. Mafia headquarters are where the boss feels most safe, a place where even the non-criminals will protect him. For many, it's where they were born. They've dropped as much dough as they can there, greased the reels and can expect a good return. But now it's in chaos. Either they've killed the boss and are purging the last of anyone who'd come back on them, or they're trying to kill the boss and making sure he can't get any help from the locals, driving him into a corner. Either way, the boss dies, lots of people go with him. I was the first to break the silence. I don't know if NYPD Blue's theory's right or not, but it's clear the Mafia are attacking for a reason, which begs the question, why do the Mafia think whatever they're after will be here? Because they've done their homework on the place. Why would the Italian Mafia have even heard of Moriel? Because Moriel started swimming out to sea. That was all over the news, and something this weird's going to be broadcast in every country in the world. The Mafia would have seen it. They know a killer named Kira Yoshikage lived here, and know that several detectives were murdered here. When they saw Barrier Chimaru's press conference, I'd speculated there are other detectives here beside me. I'd based that speculation on solid grounds, but would the Mafia even need that? And as I considered this, I heard the same truck that had delivered the call to the town meeting broadcasting a new message through its loudspeaker. Would the detectives Daibeku Shokari, Runbaba 12, and Jorge Joestar please hurry to the Budo Goku Academy garden? Huh? I thought, on several layers at once. They were summoning me by name? Daibeku Shokari and Runbaba 12 were both from Nishiaki Katsuki too. All three of us were Nishiaki Katsuki detectives? Why would all the detectives in Moriel be from the same place, even though no other detectives had been able to get here? And the timing of this summons was too perfect. Well, timing always worked like that. Good or bad, things were always perfectly timed.
Yikes,
Fukushigi said.
What do? Don't go. Wait for your moment.
That was NYPD Blue's advice from a moment ago, so I laughed and called him a dipshit. Shut the fuck up, moron, NYPD Blue roared, so suddenly both Fukushigi and me snapped our mouths shut. See? Timing. I tried a different approach. Detectives don't back down at a time like this, I said. For them to know my name, I'd only told it to the 3 boys here and the 2 in the cube house. That means someone had done some digging and found my name. Kira Yoshikage. Had he sold me out to the mob? Was he waiting for his chance to strike? Interesting. I asked the Nishimuras and Hiros to provide whatever backup they could, went alone to Budo Goku Academy's garden, and found the town residents gathered there, and a young Italian man in a well-tailored suit sitting on a chair in the centre, with Shishimaru Denta standing next to him. When Runbaba 12 and Daibeku Shokari saw me, they smiled ruefully. They were both good-looking men, but had clearly been from some shit. Their shirts and pants were both soaking wet and ragged. Mine weren't much better. Hey there. Sup? You still alive? Didn't think we'd have a reunion yet. Seriously, what a pain. Let my curiosity get the better of me. Yeah, but if you were watching this on TV, you'd be kicking yourself. True, for sure. Fed up with us whispering to each other, the Mafia dude kicked the table between us. I didn't jump, but man. Oh shit. 3 of us here. He don't need 2. Whoa, well, we don't need you. No, you, dipshit. Fud. This time he had his hand in his suit jacket. Maybe it was time to knock it off. His hair might be El Capa, but he didn't seem to speak Japanese. We, or at least I, spoke Italian, but it was a pain, so I asked Shishimura Denta, "So, what do you want with us?" I believe this, phone, any minute now, someone will call this phone, I think." His head was swollen in weird places, so he must have put his own self on the line to protect the residents, so I forgave him. But there was no phone on the table he was pointing to. There was a filthy rubber ball and a right shoe and a pebble. Huh? But the pebble suddenly started ringing. Boom, 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 boom. It also vibrated. "Oh, a stand," I said, and the other two looked surprised. What, George? You know what this thing is? What is it? How is it ringing?" They didn't know about stands. They were in for a rough ride. But they'd pick it up fast enough, like I had. I picked up the pebble. It had a display and accept call button, so I pressed it and answered. "Hello?" To my surprise, the voice on the other end spoke Japanese. "Hello." To my surprise, the voice on the other end spoke Japanese. "Hello. Is that Jorge Joestar?" A young man's voice. "Yep. You?" "My name doesn't matter. You are English, born in Japan?" "I am. And you're Japanese, born in Italy?" "What's your business?" "I'm starting to like you." "You are? Then come on down here. Let's talk face to face." "Let's get down to business." "You want to hire me?" "What do you mean?" "Hire me as a detective?" "I suppose." "Then tell me the name of my client. As a detective, you let people use you, you end up in a sticky situation. Get used to that fact, you start turning down any jobs where the client's identity isn't clear." "If you don't tell me, I'm hanging up." I waited a moment, then took the pebble away from my ear, and was about to hang up when I heard him laughing. A gentle, light laugh. "Very well. My name is Shobana Haruno, Nikkei Italian. I usually go by Giorno Giovanna. Satisfied?" "Yes, thank you. Please proceed." "I'd like you to look for someone. I don't know their real name. All I know is what they're called. Diavolo, the boss of the Passion family." Well, that was pretty much what I'd expected. "Is this person a stand master?" I asked. "We believe so. But neither I or the other two detectives can use a stand, and we honestly know very little about them." "We'll provide you with an assistant." "We can't choose who?" "Didn't think so." "The man with you is Bruno Buccioletti. His team will be working with you. He'll lead, I'll be in charge of communications, and the other three will each accompany one of you detectives." "I see. Is there a time limit?" "No." "But our current situation can't last forever." "No matter what the situation, no matter what happens, you must find Diavolo." "Understand me? No matter what." "And if we can't?" "There's no need to consider that." "I see. I was better off not thinking about it. Yeah. So, Jorge Joestar, I look forward to your success." He hung up. Bruno Buccioletti stood up and spoke to me in Italian. "You speak Italian, don't you?" "Shit," I thought, which was clearly a mistake. He laughed. "I can smell and taste lies. Remember that. Even if you keep something hidden, the taste and scent may be weaker, but that's still a lie." 3 dangerous-looking Italians came up behind him. They were all young. "So," I said, "I do speak Italian, but—" Buccioletti looked at the other two. "You both speak Italian as well, detectives?" Both Dai Bakusho Curry and Rumba 12 nodded. Si. High-level communication was a necessity in our line of work. Buccioletti assigned each of us one of his men. Dai Bakusho Curry got Leone Baccio. Tall with stern features, he loomed over that not especially tall Dai Bakusho Curry. Rumba got Guido Mister, well-built with a hat. Apparently he smelled a bit, since Rumba 12 sniffed once, made a face, and kept his distance. I was assigned Narancha Gurga. He was about the same age as me, with a boyish face, but the way he fixed me with a menacing glare suggested he was well aware of how young he looked. "Don't fuck with me," he hissed, and he made sure I knew he had a knife on him too. Clearly he was the most dangerous of this group. So, time to go investigate. I kept the pebble, Curry took the rubber ball, and 12 the orphan shoe. Rumba 12 tried to convince us to trade with him, but Bucciolati roared, "Enough!" And I looked at Narancha and saw someone standing next to him. It was Sukumajuku. He grinned at me. "Hey, I'm your instrument. A person needs your help. I'll take you to them." He grabbed my shoulder. "Yo, what the fuck?" Narancha yelled, pushing me aside and pointing his knife at Sukumajuku. In that instant we jumped. Whoops, brought an anomaly along, but it all means something, I'm sure. Bye. Sukumajuku vanished, leaving me in Narancha. On the H.G. Wells, an American spacecraft launched by NASA, passing around the dark side of Mars on its journey to the Red Planet, about to make a new discovery. Namely that, in addition to Phobos and Deimos, Mars had a previously undetected third moon. Previously undetected, because Mars had always been between it and the Earth. End of chapter 8.
Ah! It's the halfway point of the show!